Welcome to the Emotional Patterns class, Neuroplasticity and Forging New Pathways. Our bodies were created to work perfectly. The cause of disease, dis-ease, is either a toxicity or deficiency of what is introduced into our lives. We introduce the stressors, willingly or otherwise, that force our bodies to adapt. These adaptations manifest as symptoms in the body, which are grouped together to make medical diagnoses. Every single symptom that manifests in our body is created by stress, whether chemical, physical, or emotional. There is either a presence of too much bad or too little good. There's the chemical stress, which is either caused by toxicity or deficiency, physical stress, either caused by injury or lack of movement, and emotional stress, either caused by self-imposed feelings such as fear, shame, or guilt, or externally imposed feelings like lack of support. When our thoughts become reality, the human body does not know the difference between good and bad stress. However, the difference is how we interpret the stress. We train our brains to interpret and react to stress a certain way. Thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become action, action becomes reality. If we react a certain way to a particular situation repeatedly, we create a deep physical and visible path, good or bad, that becomes part of our cellular memory. Every time our brain encounters a similar situation, it travels the path of least resistance, which is the path that we created. Every time we react the same way, we deepen the groove and the path becomes easier to travel and harder to deter from. Emotions are energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Emotions are stored in various yet specific places in our body and manifest as symptoms affecting the particular systems or organs in those locations. So 75 to 98% of all mental, physical, and behavioral illnesses come from one's thought of life, or thought life. Dr. Carolyn Leaf. So if 98% of all of our symptoms are caused by the effects of our emotions, what can we do to help ourselves? Are we stuck? No. We need a reset. Contrary to outdated belief, our brain is plastic, not rigid. The theory of localizationism, where brain functions are confined to certain fixed locations, was long accepted in the medical community as absolute truth. Under this theory, conditions arising from brain damage were untreatable. Thankfully, this theory was debunked and replaced by the theory of natural plasticity late in the 20th century. Under this theory, we now accept that if a section of our brain that is traditionally in charge of a certain function is not able to perform that function, another part of our brain is able to remap itself and pick up the slack. This adaptation is not confined to physical functions in the body. It also applies to our thought life. Dr. Carolyn Leaf puts it beautifully when saying, through our thoughts, we can be our own microsurgeons as we make choices that will change the circuits in our brains. We are not slaves to negative paths we establish through repetitive negative thought patterns. With practice, we are able to teach our brains to react in a positive and healthy way and create new pathways. It takes 62 days to change a neurological pathway in the brain. The deep negative grooves physically disappear with disuse. The power of words. Our brains do not know the difference between what someone else is saying and what we are saying. Our brains also do not know the difference between a truth and a lie. If we hear it or even think it, our brain interprets it as a truth. We have to train our brains through what we expose ourselves and through the thoughts that we allow ourselves to have. We will surround ourselves with people who speak negativity into their lives. Our brains will start to think that negativity is a truth and act upon it. If we allow false negative thoughts to enter our brains, it will become a truth, and our lives will reflect that truth. We have to train our brains. We have the power to speak life or death into ourselves and into those around us. We must be intentional with what we say and what we do, especially as we speak to our children. We have the power and the responsibility to train our children to know what is right and good. Romans 12:2, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect. Essential oils and emotions. Smell is the only one of the five senses that is directly linked to the limbic lobe of the brain, our emotional control center. When smelling something, we first have an emotional response, then a physical response. all other senses have a physical response first, then an emotional response. This means the language of emotions is aroma. The areas of the brain known as the amygdala and the limbic lobe play a major role in storing and releasing emotional trauma. The only way to stimulate this gland is with fragrance through a sense of smell. Since smell is the key to accessing and unlocking the emotional brain, fragrance is the key to accessing and releasing stored emotions and emotional trauma. It is as if fragrance. So frequencies. Every single living thing has a different vibrational frequency. Every type of plant, water, our bodies, every single different cell in our bodies have a different vibrational frequency. Essential oils are no exception to this rule. They are living and have their own unique and measurable frequency. The higher the frequency of the body, the healthier the body is. The average frequency of a healthy human body is between 68 and 72 megahertz. When frequency drops, disease sets in. Negative thoughts and stimuli cause frequencies to drop, while positive thoughts and stimuli cause frequencies to rise. Essential oils raise the overall frequency of the body. If you take a look here at the chart, the number one highest ranked megahertz is in rose. There's 320 megahertz. Frequency is what pushes change in the body. According to the last 30 years of scientific research, when an essential oil encounters something in the body with a similar frequency, a phenomenon occurs, harmonics or synergy occurs. The essential oil is attracted to and seeks out part of the body with similar frequencies. The frequency of essential oil oscillates along with the cell of the body. The cells vibrate off each other, they feed off of each other's energy, and the frequencies rise. The frequencies harmonize and match with different parts of the body to help stimulate normal function, allowing the body to do what it was created to do. The higher the frequency of the body, the healthier the body is. The average frequency of a healthy human body is between 68 to 72 megahertz. When frequency drops, disease sets in. Negative thoughts and stimuli cause frequencies to drop, while positive thought and stimuli cause the frequencies to rise. Essential oils raise the overall frequency of the body. Just as the different parts of the body have their own unique frequencies, emotions have their own vibrational frequencies. So when we are laughing and having fun, our body's vibrations are higher and faster. When we are tired and sick, our vibrations are slower and lower. In other words, when we feel positive feelings, we vibrate at a higher frequency, and when we feel negative feelings, we vibrate at a lower frequency. Essential oils are able to raise the overall frequency of the body and affect emotional outlook, just as they are able to increase the frequency of the body systems and increasing the frequency in the body. Essential oils are able to bring us out of a negative frame of mind and into a positive frame of mind. This is part of the science behind making essential oil blends. When creating essential oil blends, the frequencies are carefully formulated and measured in a lab to match the average frequency of the desired emotional effect or thought patterns. For example, when creating the essential oil blend Joy, the single essential oils with their own frequencies are blended together in a lab. Once blended, the individual essential oils come together and create a whole new unique frequency. This new unique frequency is equivalent to the frequencies of the parts of the body that create emotional well-being, feeling of happiness, and more joyful outlook, which then helps to calm the body down and helps to reduce normal daily stressors. So what is in a name? Do you ever wonder how essential oil blends are named? Believe it or not, there's a rhyme and a reason to what is written on the labels. Our brains cannot concentrate on everything at the same time. To protect itself from sensory overload, the brain only focuses on what is needed or important at that moment. The brain must be signaled in order to pay attention to something that is not on the forefront. This phenomenon is called therapy localization. When we touch our skin, we are signaling to our brain to concentrate on that specific spot. Suddenly, blood will rush to that location, nerve endings will fire, and the brain will try to figure out why the attention was brought there. What did not hurt before will suddenly hurt, or a touch from a loved one will bring a rush of hormones. When reading the name on the bottle of essential oil, we are telling our brains to concentrate on that feeling the name evokes. We are turning on our brain and bringing the thought to the forefront of the brain so it's ready to be worked on. This gives us the opportunity to work on and develop that area of our life from another angle. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. There is also meaning in the label colors on the bottles of essential oils. The colors are coded for color therapy. Color creates change in the brain. Color is able to affect our emotions, our hormones, and our well-being without us even being aware. The colors inside a fast food restaurant are designed to subconsciously stimulate the hunger area of our brain and make us want to eat more, while the colors inside a spa are meant to induce feelings of serenity and contentment. The essential oil blend Oola Fitness has a red label. Red is the color of energy, power, strength, passion, and action. The essential oil blend Oola Field has a green label. Green is the color of money and growth. So how it all ties together. Since smell is the key to accessing and unlocking the emotional brain, fragrance is the key to accessing and releasing stored emotions and emotional trauma. Once released, our bodies are free from the consequences of the stored emotions, which accounts for up to 98% of all symptoms in our body. Every emotion has two sides or two paths. For example, the other side or opposite of anger is laughter. One cannot exist along with the other. The same can be said for anger, as the body cannot simultaneously laugh. Because of the chemical constituents in essential oils and the way they work with the body, they clear the path of the cellular memory and create a blank slate, providing us with the opportunity to choose to go the other way. When releasing emotions with the aid of essential oils, we must anoint, smell, and consciously choose the other path or the other side of the emotion. We must speak out loud. Remember, our brain does not know the difference between a truth and a lie. Speak life into the body. Changes are not immediate, but gradual when persistent. Persistence is key. We are paving a new pathway in our brain and letting another one atrophy. Remember, it takes 62 days to change a neurological pathway in our brain. Releasing emotional patterns with essential oils. So again, we're going back over the 98% of all symptoms in our body have an emotional connection. There are 34 emotions that you can actually clear with the Young Living Premium Starter Kit Essential Oils. The hardest part in the beginning is dissecting our emotions. Instead of saying, I'm angry, we need to ask ourselves, why am I angry? We need to get to the root of our emotion to begin to heal. The book Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils by Carolyn Mean is a guide to understanding and freeing ourselves from the burdens of our emotions and negative ways of thinking. There are 5 different charts in the book to guide you. Let's take a look at how to read each of these charts. Okay, so on the sheet here, you have all of the oils that are in the Premium Starter Kit that are actually listed in the book under the emotions. The emotion column that you see are some of the different types of emotions that are linked to these essential oils. The next column you see is the does it stink, does it not column, and then you have your notes section. What I want you to do is get this document printed out and fill these in. Go back into your book and look up the different ways of dealing with these emotions. So this is just a little clip from what is in the emotional book. On page 35, you'll notice the very first top one up there is abandonment. There's the other side, the way out, the oil, the alarm point. We're going to go over this a little bit. So all emotions on this chart are negative feelings or fear of experiencing a positive feeling. Find the emotion you are feeling and identify it out loud. So everything's listed alphabetically. Be conscious about wanting change and wanting to change the pathway. Identify the other side of the emotion. This is the opposite emotion. Remember the example of anger and laughter. We need to change our perspective to see the situation from a different point of view. Vocalize the way out. Remember, our words are powerful. We are speaking truth into our bodies. I like to turn the way out into vocalized prayer, so I change it a little bit up and add some scriptures in there. Apply the listed oils, apply the listed oil on the alarm point and smell the oil. Here's another example. Addiction. This means you feel you have an addiction to something or you have a fear of being addicted. Say out loud, I feel addicted to blah, blah, blah. consciously choose the opposite of the addiction, which is freedom. I do not want to feel addicted. I want to feel freedom. So vocalize the way out. Give your brain something new to believe in. I am wanted and lovable. Apply peace and calming to the brain alarm point and inhale while vocalizing. When releasing anger or an emotion that is painful for you, do it at bedtime. If you apply during the day, the emotion will be released during the day, which could be uncomfortable for you and those around you. After applying for a time at night, you notice that your day starting to get significantly better. Try apply during the day during this time. Emotional release should be pleasant. If not, apply at night until the day is better. I did make the mistake of using release without understanding the emotions. And what ended up happening is I cried for 4 days straight because of this release. I was releasing different things from the miscarriage that I had, and I really recommend, and I was actually diffusing at night, so this was a tough one for me, but if I would have known the way out, if I would have known that when I woke up in the morning, I should have put joy on because I released a negative emotion and I should have applied a positive to counteract that. So just keep that in mind. But these emotional pathways were not created overnight, nor will they be rerouted or released overnight. Typically, the typical application frequencies are 1, 3, 7, 10, or 18 times per day for 1, 3, or 7 weeks. Apply as often as every 15 minutes. If you feel a little bit better after oiling, keep going. Oil preventively. You want to have the highest frequencies before going into a negative situation, which brings the frequencies down. So let's say you smelt an oil and it stinks really bad, but you're not sure on the emotion, or you're not sure what you're dealing with. You can go to the oil reference chart, which starts on page 60, and look up that oil. So we're using lavender as an example. Maybe you scanned for that oil, or maybe it just stinks to you. Look it up, look at the emotions, and worst comes to worst, apply lavender to all of the alarm points, which you see in the third column. You cover your chances of hitting the right emotion that way. So what happens if you actually have pain, maybe a rash or something that's popped up on your body and you know that there is no physical reason for it? Maybe you go to that part of the body. Go to your body reference chart on page 70 and you find where you are experiencing discomfort. Remember, the alarm point may not be located by the physical body part, so you may actually have to reference the actual body charts in the back of the book. But identify the applicable emotion. Go back to the emotion chart to find the other side and the way out. But when you are having physical pain or sickness, go to the chart to apply. Okay, so the location of the body alarm points chart starts on page 81. These charts will show you the locations of alarm points. When the alarm points on the body are hard to access in your current situation or impossible to access, possibly an amputee, for example, you may apply to the alternative points on the hands and feet, and even the ears have some different points on it. So let's talk about kids. You are your child's voice. Kids don't develop the limbic part of the brain that processes pain or pleasure until age 5 through 10, or even later with developmental delays. During this time, we, as parents, are their limbic system and stress control system. This is why babies feel the heartbeats of their parents and young kids cling to them in unfamiliar situations. The children assess the parent's reaction, both involuntary and voluntary, and mimic it as their truth. When emotionally clearing a child, we are their voice. Identify out loud the emotion your child is feeling. Say to them in terms they will understand. It's up to you to break the destructive cycle of negative emotions and to guide children down a new path. Speak life into them. Remember, the brain doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie, or what someone else is saying and what you are saying. So I like to do things like, you are so smart. I can't believe how intelligent you are. I know you're angry, but it's not okay to hit. And maybe let's look at the situation, how it could have been funnier. And teaching them the opposite side. I've showed him that you're feeling angry, and then here is the emotion that is the way out. Now, granted, there is times where you're going to feel these emotions. You just have to let them know the correct way to respond to it. Here's a few answers to some frequently asked questions. Keep an eye on the positive side of the emotions. Sometimes it's easier to identify what you want rather than what you have. You don't have to use the alarm points. It's just an added tool when emotionally clearing. Use your sense of smell and speak the emotion you want to experience. Even if you have no sense of smell, the pathways in your brain are still fired and influenced. Different emotions may be addressed at the same time. If more than one oil is needed, layer one on top of the other. And one does not necessarily have to be a willing participant to benefit from emotional clearing. You can identify the emotion a loved one is feeling and diffuse or anoint that oil. The oils will get into the brain and make changes whether we allow them to or not. Another part of the Releasing Emotional Patterns book is the Dominant Traits test. I highly recommend taking this test and figuring out what your emotional traits are so that you can pinpoint some more emotions you might be dealing with. The first part of the test starts with your mental and emotional needs. Pause right here. You're going to go back and forth and figure out what emotion best describes you. So, do you think or do you feel? Circle the one that describes you and go all the way down. The column that you have the most in is most likely the area you are the strongest in. So your dominant trait, if you score 12 in emotional, you are primarily emotional. So go ahead, pause, take this little test, jot it down, and figure out what this part is. The next part is going to be your physical and spiritual dominant traits. Same thing as the emotional and mental, just pick the one that best describes you. And when we get to the end, you are going to have your end result. So for example, I am emotional and physical. When I get to the end, I'll show you where I figured out to start on my emotional clearing journey. Okay, so now you should know whether you are mental or emotional and physical or spiritual. We will proceed to the next step, which will explain emotions that are linked to those traits and what oils you can use to help balance them. There's also a list of oils you can use to balance your traits. So if you're unable to get the book, you can just use these oils that we list next, and that'll be a great place to start. So with the physical and mental, you'll notice there on the right that we're talking about the oils, joy, sandalwood, sarah, frankincense. These are oils that will help you balance the spiritual and emotional side of your traits. This is on page 22 in the book. It's going to help you identify your body types and emotions that go with those body types. But physical and mental, the tangible word is reality. They need to see it, touch it, and understand how it works for it to be real. Physically strong and mentally focused, they can achieve whatever they set out to do. And that is, again, from your Releasing Emotional Patterns book. Highly recommend getting that. So the physical and emotional traits they're basically emotions and physically expressing feelings are their reality. So family and social relationships are their highest priority. You see there on the side on the right, they would need clarity, peace and calming, frankincense, rose, white angelica, awaken, and three wise men. And their body types, blood, gallbladder, gondola, kidney, liver, lung, pancreas, and skin. Those are areas that they could have health issues in, and the emotions that go with them are all listed there. Highly recommend going and looking up a little bit more on this one. Again, this is the one I am, and I do have type 1 diabetes. So interesting that the area of my body that is damaged and needs the most attention is actually one that I have emotional issues with. Spiritual and emotional is extremely sensitive in both the spiritual and emotional traits. These types generally learn to focus on the physical and mental traits early in life to survive. Their power lies in using their strengths. This is actually one of the smallest ones. Heart and intestine are the two body types that are affected. Loneliness, not good enough. Not good enough seems to be the primary emotional issue here. And the oils to help them balance: clarity, peace and calming, valor, and immupower. This is the last one. It's spiritual and mental. So ideas, ideals, and concepts are the reality. Figuring out how to synthesize bits of information and insights to express in physical form for the good of mankind is their strength. making them more task associated with people rather than primarily socially associated. So again, Valor, Emu Power, Joy, Sandalwood, Sarah, and they have quite a few different body types listed there with their emotions. So this is just a great way to get a starting point on things you might be feeling. Letting go with essential oils, step 1 through 15. This is actually out of your Essential Oil Desk reference book, and it gives you a list and some information on how to do emotional clearing. So if you can't get the other book and you do have the desk reference, be sure to look these up. There's some really good application sites, things to think about. Now, there is some new agey names in here, but don't let that throw you off. I believe that God intended us to help us have clear emotional well-being. And if someone mentions chakra, just overlook it. That's speaking to a different group of people. But I think that, again, there is things in here that can help everyone. So we're just going to go through these next couple slides and just take a look at what each one has to offer. So here's number 6 through 10. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and let it run through so that you can read these and see which each oil can do for you. And here's number 11 through 15. The take time part, while we're just stay quiet. Give yourself that quiet time to reflect and to think and write things down. It will really, really help you through this process. All right, I got all this information. Now what do I do? So if you're new to the oils, please contact a person who's been sharing the oils with you. You know what they will know what to do next. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about, please contact our team, the Learn to Be Healthy team. We have some specialized folks with the emotional area, certified AFT professionals, and just very knowledgeable experiences with the emotions. But please contact somebody, open up your book, read. You will have such freedom from your emotions when you actually can figure out how to use these oils to help you. So there's actually 2 extra kits that Young Living offers, which is the Feelings Kit and the Freedom Kit. The Feelings Kit is great because it comes with your starter oils that you would need to help you with releasing emotions. And then the Freedom Kit, it's normally out of stock, but that's another great one for especially our military family or anybody who has had severe traumatic experience. So again, thank you for attending our class. We greatly appreciate all of your attention you've given to us, and we wish you the best. We will pray that these will help you like they've helped us. Thank you.